So let's get to this great talk I have with Steven Pietro, and let's hear about the NYCGHA. The New York City Gay Hockey Association has been around for over 20 years, which is wild. That's so lovely.
24.
Basing
Crazy.
themselves at my home arena, Sky Rink in Chelsea Piers. The NYCGHA is one of the first and largest organizations in the country. They provide an environment free and harassment and discrimination for members of I misread that. They provide an environment free of harassment and discrimination for members and friends of the LGBTQ plus community to play ice hockey. The organization continues to be a great reference to other similar groups worldwide. Welcome, board members and players, Pietro Scarsone and Steven Greenberg.
You got
it. There it is.
Perfect. The one thing I always start off with all my questions, just so we're not, before we get into the nitty gritty, are what are your guys' fondest hockey memories? And it could be past, future, current, hopeful.
Pietro and mine are the same, but
I'm going to guess so too.
We'll say it on three. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Paris.
Fair. And you guys played a full tournament over there, or?
Oh yeah, it was part of the Gay Games in 2018, and it was a huge event with many different sports, ranging from ice hockey to figure skating to non-ice sports, basketball, all kinds of stuff.
Cheerleading.
Yeah, like so much stuff, like Greco-Roman wrestling and like all this stuff. And it was amazing. And it was actually the reason I started playing hockey in the first place and like actually got serious about it.
Was that was that because it was a goal? That
exactly.
You're like, I want to play because I want to go to this?
Exactly. It was, what happened was, long story short, me and my husband fell in love with ice skating, and we were the guys who would just go, to open skate and skate in a circle and crash into the boards to stop because we didn't know how to stop. And, one day we were going to go on vacation to Montreal, and then our place to stay fell through because we wanted to do the outdoor ice skating trails there. So we had bought ice skates for that trip, and they asked us if we wanted figure skates or hockey skates, and we're like, hockey skates. Maybe we'll want to learn to play hockey one day, haha. And we took our vacation money, since our vacation was canceled, and decided to take skating lessons at Chelsea Piers, and half the ice was learned to skate, and half the ice was learned to play hockey. And we saw them on the learn to play hockey side, and we're like, we're doing that. And so we started our hockey lessons with coaches Ivo and Craig, and they were amazing. And my buddy, who is an amazing gay athlete, Will Sheridan, played basketball for Villanova. And he said to me, he's like, oh, you're learning to play hockey. Do you know about the NYCGHA? I'm like, the what? He's like, the NYCGHA. It's like, you've got to join them. He's like, you could play the Gay Games in Paris in 2018. I'm like, okay, we're doing that. And so I said to Ivo, dude, you have to have me ready for Paris 2018. And the coach looks at me and goes, the Olympics? I'm like, nah, man, the Gay Games. He's like, all right. Yeah, I'll get you ready. Yeah. And we went and did it, and silver medals.
It's like the regular Olympics, only gayer.
Yep.
There's an opening ceremony and everything.
Steven, what was your experience with the Paris Games?
I had a blast. It wasn't the reason why I had joined, but it was certainly, 4 years in the making. I knew it was coming, and I really wanted to go. I had friends who had done the Gay Games for years. Before that, it was in Cologne. New York had sent a large contingent there and lost handily. Apparently, actually, no, 4 years before that. Sorry about that. It was 8 years before. 4 years before that, I was actually at the Gay Games in Akron, Ohio. It's kind of weird. Went from Cologne to Akron, Ohio to Paris. So I did play in the Gay Games in Akron in 2014. And I started playing hockey in 2010 when I moved to New York City. And I, too, found out about the New York City Gay Hockey Association at an event called the JHA-thon.
Oh, I remember
which
the
was,
Jockathon.
yeah, we
Yeah.
all the LGBT sports teams and leagues had booths set up at the Dave and Buster's in Times Square, and I met
Classy.
yes, and I met Jeff Kagan, who is the founder of the NYCGHA, and he's like, "Why don't you start playing?" I said, "Oh, never. I'm 30 years old. Like, that's not possible, right?" I didn't know about Learn to Skate, adult hockey programs, and sure enough, I started. And first scrimmage I ever played, people were terrified of my presence on the ice. My legs couldn't stop shaking for 30 minutes after the game. I remember that. And then, yeah, I got better and better and better, and I've sort of plateaued for someone who's 42 years old.
Fair. No, that's awesome. That's one hell of a fond hockey memory. I like that. And I've seen photos of that because I've heard little stories about it floating around the rink. So that's really lovely to hear about.
Oh,
Um,
everything they said about me is absolutely true.
fair. I like that. So the reason I've been kind of wanting to get connected with your organization and just kind of like dig into kind of what you guys have been a big part of, because I'm always coaching on Saturdays and then I'm kind of running out of the rink and I see you guys kind of starting your games and everyone's got like super amazing, really bright colored, awesome, well designed jerseys versus some of us old folk that play on during the week. Um, so that's always been it's a notable thing. You guys are much more fashion forward, and myself like
We'll
yeah
agree with.
yeah yeah.
Absolutely.
And when I was myself as an advocate and supporter for the LGBTQ plus world, pretty much since I was a little kid, lost my uncle to AIDS and always been kind of like in a loving household. I never got into a lot of the homophobia that surrounded me as a straight male, and in the community and in the sport. But I'm so curious about how impactful this group is to the hockey players within it versus any other hockey group for that matter.
I mean, so I used to run the organization. I stepped down as president and, had put together some testimonials of folks. I mean, it's anywhere from like, oh, I now have a new activity, something fun to do with my life, to anything is you've saved my life. I remember one email was sent to us saying I was lost. I felt at a place in the world. I had nothing going for me. And then you came along and changed his life, and he was a goalie. And so took up being a goalie and, wrote this really heartfelt email to us about how the NYCGHA changed his life. And, also I've received another email of someone basically where they were contemplating suicide. And then the NYCGHA came along and, gave them purpose in life. So it's, running the organization for a while, those are the type of stories that, had such an impact and made me be involved for so long in the organization. Now 12, I can't do math, almost 14 years now. And, 12 years. And, yeah, those are the stories that keep me still involved. I don't even live in New York anymore. I'm still involved in the organization.
We're trying to get him back.
It sounds like, I mean, we're living in a world of hybrid working and things like that. So you're probably just as involved as you always have been. So that's really lovely to hear because I've always been kind of a person that never noticed any difference. I've been that way about um, race and sex and everything in my life, which is kind of, I don't know. I hope it should be. I think it should be normal, but apparently I've seen a lot of it not. I've seen a lot of the times where I'm in a locker room and someone starts throwing out really terrible, obscene things. That's not fair, and also it's always like an uneducated comment. So, but to know that there's organizations like what you guys have put together to put people into this great sport because we know it's such a great sport to be part of. It's such a out of any sport I talk about, I know there's a lot of other really great sports and really great organizations surrounding that. But hockey as a sport in my life, and I'm sure it has been for you guys as well, has just been such a crucial thing. Like all my best friends I played hockey with, all my, my family, like I feel like every story I start with, well, that person I know that I played hockey with, it kind of starts that way. So it's really lovely to hear that for sure. And knowing, that worked for them, I'm kind of curious as well for you guys personally, even though Steven, I know you're not in New York, but that's okay. Because I'm sure there's probably something there. I'd love to know how important this organization has been for the two of you in a personal level.
Well, on a personal level, it's actually been very huge for me. It gave number one, it gave me and my husband an amazing activity to do together that we both really connected over, and we never ever thought about playing hockey. I mean, I grew up during the Islanders dynasty. I knew that Mike Bossy and Butch Goring were my favorite players, but I never was like, I'm gonna play hockey. I'm like, where am I gonna play hockey in Brooklyn? It's like, but I found the GHA and just an instant amazing friend group and friend base and people who became family to us, and going and playing travel tournaments and just doing all these amazing things together and geeking out watching the playoffs and like all these great things. And also, as a gay man, I had never, like, I love sports. Like, I watch football, basketball. Can't watch baseball anymore. It's just too slow. But
it's
once
faster
you get
now, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just had a Lackeys game. That was impressed how fast the game was. I was like,
Yeah.
this is more like it.
I haven't been to a baseball game in a decade, so we'll see. Maybe when the Yankees get good again. But again, so just all these amazing people and these just incredible experiences, and having this common life experience and common love for a game, it's just magical.
That's pretty great. How about you,
Yeah,
Steven?
and I would echo the exact same comments, except it's interesting. I didn't grow up liking sports. In fact, I was always the odd one out in the family. I had a family of golfers and baseball players, and my brother was a PGA pro. My father can drive the ball 400 yards or something crazy. I don't think that sounds unrealistic, but and then me, I was the science and math nerd in school and such. And then I didn't actually get into hockey till a friend in college. I was 20 years old. Took me to a hockey game. It's the Devils versus Dallas, and I get to the game. I'm like, this is super exciting. This is how much I didn't know about the sport. It was Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Oh my God!
The Devils were up 3-1 in the series. And that game would have been the turn. It went into triple overtime. It was scoreless into the third overtime. The game ended at like 1 something a.m. And when Dallas scored and won the game, everyone just got up and left. It was like, finally, this game's over at least. But I didn't even know that. That was my first thing, and that really turned me on to hockey. And I just watched it for 10 years. Became a New Jersey Devils fan and just started watching it. And then wasn't until New York, like I said, when I moved to New York, I started playing. And that's when I met my friend base. Took up a lot of my time, dedication, and energy, especially being on the board. It gave me purpose outside of my regular day job, which I hated at one point. So, it was actually an outlet for me to get my aggressions out and, put it to good use rather than sitting around moping on how much I hate my job. So, I put all my energy and effort into the NYCGHA. So it gave me purpose, and I certainly miss everyone. And Pietro wants me back. That's.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm down a right winger, buddy.
Oh, I play it all now. I started playing defense in Colorado now. I know.
Oh, so you're verse.
I am. Yes.
It's the thin air has made you different positional. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I'm much better shape, and the oxygen deprivation helps.
Yeah.
Also makes me a little loopy, but that's okay.
That's pretty great. I mean, it's so great to hear that it's been such a great landing spot for the two of you, and also it's so interesting to hear that you guys have some similarities in your way there, but also a little different, which is really great. And it's just a matter of kind of like bringing the two together in the right spot. Um, Something I'm curious about that I know NYCGHA does more of, because I know I've seen it around Islanders games and Rangers games and things like that. And I'm just curious about what the organization does outside of the hockey game, because I know that you guys do a lot of raising money for a lot of things, and also kind of upping the game and actually helping to promote a lot of inclusivity to the game as well.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, do you want to go, Steve?
sure. I So outside of hockey, which is obviously a large part, we do a lot of social events. We try to set up like different parties and such. In fact, even though I'm away, I still help organize parties, around my visits, of course. And so we're doing a party next week, and hosting people uh, somewhere in Manhattan, and then we also do, for hockey, we will do some fundraising scrimmages from time to time. We have, unfortunately, have had a series of suicides in the organization for a variety of reasons. And as a result, we've done, we just recently did a scrimmage to help fundraise for suicide awareness.
Which
So
sold out
fundraising
so
is a big
fast
part
that
of
I
it.
couldn't even be a part of it.
Oh,
I donated to it, but a lot of my friends are on that team, so I was very sad to hear the news. But I was coaching just before it, and I was like trying to take my skates off,
oh
Meanwhile,
no.
like dropping tears while Vic is like kind of walking through the conversation and talking everyone through it. So such a lovely event and such a lovely night for such a lovely person. Who I
Yeah.
unfortunately never met, but I heard a lot of great things about.
Yeah, definitely. And unfortunately, just one of quite a few in the past few years, unfortunately. And then we also do a lot of participation in the NHL Pride Nights.
Mm-hmm.
We're lucky in New York having three organizations so close by, and they've all been really supportive in multiple ways, whether it's donating signed memorabilia or donating ice time. We've had the privilege of skating at MSG, at Barclays Center, at Prudential Center. So
And I
uh,
got my first hat trick on the ice at Prudential Center.
Okay, that's a good one.
the shame Pietro will never go into any statistics.
That's wonderful.
And so, yeah, that's an important part of what we do and making sure we're visible in that regard. And like the Islanders have even made us the beneficiary of their 50-50 2 years in a row as far as, so that's definitely been helpful. And it's also helped fund our scholarship program, which I started. It was sort of like before I stepped down, my big project that I started, and then COVID hit and got postponed a bit. But we now, playing hockey in New York City is extremely, extremely expensive. I live in Denver right
Get
now,
me
and it's just
started.
crazy what I pay a third the
Yeah,
price of to play
yeah,
hockey there, and it's a barrier to entry, especially for folks, marginalized sort of folks in our LGBT community who don't make as much money and have a tough time affording the sport. So we have built a scholarship fund, and we have about 12, 12 to 13, I think, about beneficiaries of that this season. And it helps them a lot. And we just hear great stories of how like they couldn't afford to do it otherwise.
Oh,
So
that's
that's
so
helpful.
definitely during the
beneficial.
pandemic, the
Yeah,
scholarship fund really helped. Like, I was a bartender. And so when the pandemic hit, I lost all income for a long time. And when the skating started up again, there was just no way I could do it. And thankfully, the scholarship fund really got me through until we could get back on our feet and get everything moving again.
that's great. Um, No, it's so great that you guys. The thing I love about the NYCGHA, from not only what you guys are sharing with me now, but also what's been mentioned to me before, is that you guys kind of have your own microclimate and make sure that you guys are so supported internally, which is so wonderful to hear about. Making sure not only people can afford to play the sport that's so expensive for all of us, but also, especially in New York City, but also just giving that ultra support in the good times and the bad, which is so wonderful to hear. And in when I hear that stuff, it just warms my heart so much, because a bunch of bros that I've been skating with my whole life are like, if you shed a tear, they'd punch you in the face or something. So it's just it's so great to hear of that kind of love and support within your organization. Something that kind of you guys mentioned as far as like being part of the NHL and connected to that. And I know the NHL has a large inclusivity program internally, but I really would love to ask your guys' opinion on this kind of removal of jerseys and warm-ups that are not only pride jerseys, they're kind of all jerseys, whether it's Black History Month, Indigenous people, and it really has upset a lot of people, including myself, and I'm sure you guys have as well. And I'm going to give a little quote from Luke Prokop, who is a prospect for the Nashville Predators, and one of the first, as what they say, as far as coming out. And he said, Pride Nights and Pride jerseys play an important role in promoting respect and inclusion for the LGBTQ plus community. It is disheartening to see some teams no longer wearing them or not fully embracing their significance, while the focus of others has become about the players who aren't participating rather than the meaning of the night itself. What's your guys' thought on that?
Well, I got to say, first and foremost, having been to a bunch of Pride nights, I thought it was a pretty chicken move to just ditch all jerseys at the risk of alienating what percentage of the fan base. I just thought it was kind of cowardly. When it comes to social justice and respect and recognition, you can't be afraid of alienating people. The point is to bring the greater collective together. It's just so important that visibility can mean so much to some kid, small town somewhere, who has no LGBTQ resources but loves watching his big city hockey team, and they have a pride night, and that lets that kid feel that chance for inclusion and that chance for acceptance. And it's so important. It's so much bigger than not pissing off the internet trolls.
Yeah, and the players are the access point. I mean,
absolutely. And look at Cal Clutterbuck of my New York Islanders. He was one of the first you can play players in the NHL, and has one of the best mustaches ever.
I agree with all of Pietro's points. Also there's one thing that they didn't just say, oh, we're not including pride jerseys. At least it was like they're not including any jerseys, but we all know the reason why they did that, because that's the one people were complaining about. But yeah, I agree. It's all about visibility. People, the trolls on the internet, whatever you want to call them, why is this political? Why is this a thing? Well, because you made it political, because you have a problem with it. And so this is why we do this. Those people who are afraid to come out feel comfortable and safe.
And I also think it takes a lot of kind of blockade to the players, because like you say, Clutterbuck was the first connected to the You Can Play initiative, but it takes away players that actually are willing to stand by the side of any of the organizations that they're trying to take the jerseys away from, and let them voice their opinion, instead of a few guys that their opinion is based on religion or the wonderful country in the middle of nowhere called Russia. So those players, that's all we're like. And I think Luke, his quote is so perfect for the fact that he goes, yeah, it really does put those negative things to the top instead of put in this really positive thing that this was there for.
Yeah. Plus, I hate rainbows. Rainbows are awesome. I mean, it's just colorful and
exactly.
Well, I also love that the jerseys. I know that they use a lot of local artists. They use a lot of people that are in the area and everything. And like for them to just take that away and not
I
come up
know
with a solution is really frustrating to me.
the New Jersey. Did you see the New Jersey Devils Pride Night jersey? It was so beautiful, and yeah, I was there for their Pride Night. It was great, and I tried to bid on one, but it went too
Yeah.
high.
Yeah,
Signed jersey.
we gotta get you guys into the to UBS, but I'm sure you guys already have that on deck for this season.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. The Islanders have always been really good to us, and they better be. They could lose a fan if they're not. So
you tell them, Pietro.
So you don't want to lose this, Lou Lamoriello. You don't want to lose this.
Yeah. Well, something kind of based off of the jersey thing is also something that I see when they do kind of connect the LGBTQ world to hockey. And one thing that I found that's very interesting in media, and when they interview, I found a player that they interviewed. I didn't want to give his name for sure, but they're like, oh, well, they ask hetero players questions and they get the answer, well, I didn't even notice. And for me, that's kind of a bad approach because I feel like why would you notice? I mean, they're just playing hockey. And the question was like, oh, well, you're out there. Did you even realize that that's a gay, that person's gay? And I'm like, wow, that's really shitty. And I saw handfuls of those out there, and I feel like that shouldn't be the way that it's treated, even though NHL in a lot of ways is kind of connected to inclusivity. At least it likes to think it is. And I'm just kind of curious what you guys think about that in the future. I'm sure that we'd love to see that script changed so people don't have that kind of answer.
I mean, it takes the representation, right, Steve Greenberg?
It takes representation. One of the goals I used to talk with Jeff, the founder, about of the NYCGHA is to no longer need to exist. And unfortunately, that's still not the case. Fortunately, because we're a great group and we organize things really well. And,
fashionable.
It's just a great and fashionable, obviously. But really, the goal would be we shouldn't exist. We would just be another group of hockey players treated exactly in the same manner, but obviously not when you ask questions like that. Did you know he was gay? Did you know they were gay?
Mm-hmm.
It's, I guess they're trying to make a point like, oh, it didn't matter. Like you didn't know. And now that you know, why is it different? But, those questions shouldn't ever exist or shouldn't even matter.
Yeah.
But it does, unfortunately, still. It's going to take a long, long time. Things are happening that make it better, but it's, definitely not good yet. As good as you want it to be.
Well, you guys being kind of connected, and I'm sure you guys read and see so much kind of based on this subject matter. I'm kind of curious if you think there's enough being done in sports that aren't hockey.
That's a tough one. I mean, my number 2 sport is the NFL. I love the NFL. That said, the NFL has really dropped the ball on some stuff in recent years. What is it? Like 6 years, 7 years, Colin Kaepernick, since he played a game. And all he was doing was trying to bring attention to an issue of inequality and discrimination. And the NFL dropped the ball hard on that, real hard. And, they make a good show of things, but Carl Nassib is not on an NFL roster this season thus far. Michael Sam's draft was ridiculous. A player of his stature in college football getting picked with the last pick in the draft is unheard of. He was his conference's defensive player of the year. So I don't see enough being done in that capacity. I think baseball historically has been a bit better, but yeah, there's just a lot more work to do. But I'm not starting
I
to
know nothing about any other team sports. So likes the other sports. I just watch hockey. I like snowboarding and skateboarding.
That's probably good for your sanity because when you read and you see those other terrible things that just are happening in the back, but no one's saying anything about, it's just it is a bit of a bummer. But but hopefully, fingers crossed, things will start moving in the right direction instead of this winding road that sometimes it happens to do. Well, guys, this has been super impactful, and I've learned so much about the organization and its importance. Even though I've seen it, been walking by it for so long, I'll definitely do a lot more high-fiving, and hopefully after they see this episode, everyone that's part of the organization will listen in. But I want to close things with one question about the hopeful future of NYCGHA. And I mean, you kind of mentioned a little bit about, it not being there if, so we can have some more inclusivity, but I'm sure you guys have some ideas as to what you think the organization can do in the upcoming few years here.
Well, for me personally, I feel like there are some things that we can do in an organization that can improve the culture of hockey at Chelsea Piers, at anywhere in general, which is something that I feel is not happening, that I don't see at any rink, are female referees. And because we have lots of co-ed leagues, there are referees who are just not in touch with what female players deal with on the ice, whether it's a question of physicality, language used, and so on. And I'd love to see more female referees, and I think that maybe that's something as an organization that we can do is if we continue to raise money not only for our scholarship fund, but there are other things we can pour money into. That was an idea I had. By the way, Steve, it's first year hearing of it, but that was an idea I had.
Bring it up at the board meeting.
It's actually,
as long as there's Chinese food.
There's a stat that I found out today.
It'll be Chinese food.
Yeah. There's a stat I found out today regarding that refereeing across North America has been on a major decline. So there are organizations that are, not only like yours, but also like inner city organizations, a lot of other different organizations around the country right now that are trying to amp up the idea of reffing, just because it's starting to kind of become a desert, or there's like three guys that you always see. And it's nice to have some different faces around as well.
Oh, it's real. At Chelsea Piers lately, it's been, I feel bad for Donnie. He's lost 20 pounds. He's got to skate so much.
Oh, good for him. Oh, man. Oh, Donnie, I miss that guy.
He's a legendary referee.
He's the legend of Don. Yeah, that's a great idea, Pietro. We'll discuss it next week. And just diversity in general, we're just one cog, right? Mm-hmm. Working with other organizations. So one thing we tried doing before the pandemic, we need to revisit, is working with Black Girl Hockey Club.
Yes.
Based in Harlem. I think they're up in Harlem. And other organizations just bringing general diversity, whether it's in referees and players themselves, or just general diversity all across the board.
Love that. No, and those are two great things to look forward to. And the great thing is, I know you guys will get it there because you guys have done it with so many things and pushed so many things through and so many things forward, which has been so great to see and hear. Even if it is just my lens of kind of seeing it float around different parts of Instagram and other parts of social media, and also in the rink, and from crazy refs like Donnie, of course. So I've known Donnie for a long time.
Thursday night, come to our party. I'll send you an invite.
Yes, please do. I'd love that. This has been great, guys. Thank you so much for for taking time out of this. Well, folks, I hope that you really enjoyed that chat I had with the NYCGHA. It's really important. This organization is doing so much, not only for just comfortability and harassment and making sure that doesn't happen to their own organization and members, but also these guys are in the community. They are literally, obviously they're in the Pride Parade. They're doing a lot of nonprofit work. They have done so much work for the community, and that right there just puts them at higher above any beer league team that I know. And I know that there are some out there that actually do a lot of nonprofit and other work like that. But it was really great talking to them. It's really great getting to know their organization and association, and it was really, really, really fun. Something I'm going to start mentioning, even though I know unless you're on my YouTube platform, you're not going to notice, but I have a tendency to wear a hat pretty regularly. So, and I have a lot of hockey hats. The list is growing. There's some on the mail already coming from a couple of my favorites. But I think today, since we talked with the NYCGHA, we talked about inclusivity, we talked about the growth of the community around this whole Pride tape, Pride jersey problem, and as well as the other jerseys that are not going to be shown. I wore my HDA hat, which is the Hockey Diversity Alliance. It's put together by Akeem Aloui, and I'm probably screwing his name up, but there's so many other players involved that are great. Nazem Kadri, Wayne Simmons, the list goes on, and it's such another great organization that just needs to happen in hockey and needs to be supported for the growth of our sport. For those of you that don't see this, I'm gonna show this book by Akeem Aloui that is called Dreamer, and it's actually a graphic novel. It was a comic, which was a nice surprise. But it talks about his experiences living in Canada, coming from the Ukraine, and being a kid that looked a lot different than others on the ice. And I think this graphic novel is a really good access point for young people in our sport to kind of talk through what they're thinking about and what they're hearing, So highly recommend it. Throw it on your Christmas list. It's called Akeem Aloui. The book is called Dreamer. I got it on Amazon, so I know you can. So make that happen. Again, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you comment. Make sure you're jumping on my Cross Ice Pass Instagram. I put a lot on there. Right now, Cross Ice Pass is on Spotify. I think I'm going to be adding it to Apple in the coming weeks, and some other platforms. So just show me your love, because this week I got to go visit my family in Michigan, got to get a little rest, got to see some of the old rinks and the old crew. I also got to, because I love to play music, and you probably heard at the beginning of this episode, the music that's being played is actually recorded by my dad. I was there recording some different tracks from him. You're gonna get a little bit of my dad, Kim Mosier, and his awesomeness. My dad kind of is a self-taught guitarist, never a big band guy. Usually just plays and learns on his own. He's playing. He's spending all of his time making cigar boxes in his retired years, and they're awesome. I have one myself, so I hope you enjoy the joy of hearing from my dad as much as I do. So I'm gonna say, have a good week. Keep an eye on hockey, because there's no way you can say you can't. And we're gonna send you out with my dad and this song that he used to play, "Embryonic Journey" by Jefferson Airplane, and he used to play this when I was little at the campfire when we were camping and stuff. So it's got it's got a big wrap around my heart, this song, and it's got a lot of history, and I hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you next week.